Go.
I don't have any.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is interesting. My name is Sam Stewart, and thank you. We have some fans. A fan club, that's great. I'm the youngest and tallest son of tonight's guest of honor, Paul Stewart. And it's a privilege and an honor to be with you all this evening. On behalf of my family, we would like to thank everybody for your attendance as we celebrate the 35-year career of my father, Paul Stewart, at Skylakes Medical Center, specifically 35 years. It's quite the accomplishment. You know, it's a little surreal being here this evening. We all knew this day would eventually come, one we've looked forward to, one he's been talking about for a while. And it's just a little strange actually being here now. And it's the end of, we grew up here and the hospital's part of our lives. And him at the hospital that's all I know. And so this is it's very surreal. Now, I do think that Paul, it's weird calling him Paul, my dad, would have liked this day to have been probably January of 2020. The last couple of years have been a little stressful. I don't know if you're aware of the big pandemic thing going on and all sorts of fun stuff up at the hospital. Caused his a couple extra gray hairs on his head over the last couple of years, but he pushed through. We're excited to usher in this next chapter of his life. My mother especially is chomping at the bit to get him finally to herself after all these years. And we're looking forward to seeing their adventures continue. To cap off our celebration this evening, we've asked a few people to share some remarks about Mr. Stewart and to commemorate his career and his involvement at Skylakes Medical Center, as well as within our community. So first on our agenda, we are going to hear from Dr. Joyce Hollander Rodriguez, who is a family medicine physician and director of the Cascades East residency program.
Hello, everybody. It's good to see folks. The podium's a little bit better size for me than for Sam, so I appreciate that. I wanted to start things off with a letter that comes from Dr. Danny Jacobs, the president of OHSU. And he asked that I share this letter with Paul and with all of you. So, over the course of his remarkable career, Paul Stewart has forged creative, innovative partnerships and leveraged resources to improve the health of the Klamath region and rural Oregon. OHSU's partnership with Mr. Stewart spanned his entire 35 years at Skylakes Medical Center. He has improved the health of rural communities and has contributed to revolutionizing rural healthcare through his steadfast commitment to the citizens of Oregon, as well as through his integrity, honesty, and clear focus. The Cascades East Family Medicine Residency Program accepted its first residents in 1994, a short 2 years after Mr. Stewart became president and chief executive officer at Skylakes. Through this collaboration of OHSU and Skylakes Medical Center, our School of Medicine trainees reside in Klamath Falls for 3 years, receiving in-depth, hands-on, community-based training in rural medicine. The majority of our residents go on to address the healthcare gaps that occur too often in rural areas. The program is now consistently ranked as one of the top family medicine residency programs in the United States. Mr. Stewart, Mr. Stewart has been central to these achievements. OHSU chose to headquarter its innovative campus for rural health in Klamath Falls, in large part because of our long-term partnership with Mr. Stewart and Skylakes. Our goal is to provide every OHSU student with a rural learning experience, inspiring more graduates to practice in rural Oregon. To our knowledge, no other academic medical center is pursuing this model. This innovative and interprofessional team-based training is unique for an academic medical center. The program has contributed to the economy and vitality of Klamath Falls, in part through downtown buildings that have been renovated for student housing. With Mr. Stewart's vision and leadership, we were also proud to embark on a programmatic and philanthropic partnership with Sky Lakes that resulted in the Collaborative Health Center. This building now serves as the headquarters of OHSU's Campus for Rural Health and the Cascades East Family Medicine Residency Program. OHSU has been fortunate to have such an extraordinary partner and supporter of healthcare for all. We absolutely would not be where we are without you. Thank you, Mr. Stewart. Thank you, Mr. Stewart, for all you have done to make the lives of Oregonians better across communities near and far. We admire, respect, and celebrate your work. Danny Jacobs, OHSU President. And you heard these kind words from President Jacobs, and I want to echo those, and also share a few remarks from the perspective of Cascades East and our residency program. So Paul Stewart's support of the residency has been just a critical component of our success. There are so many community hospitals across the nation who take that first glance at the financial equation of starting a residency program and can never get past those initial numbers. They worry that it won't add up. But Paul's been able to look at the long-term return on investment, and he's been able to see how the investment has resulted in a thriving primary care community and recruitment of residency grads into practices across our community, and resulting in increased access to care and improved health of our community. Residency grads who've made up much of our medical staff leadership and contributions like the Wellness Center and Blue Zones and Rural Campus, the ripple effects of these types of decisions are felt across our downtown businesses, through the residents and graduates and spouses, families. We've seen new coffee shops, bookstores, bike lanes, co-working spaces, these new parks, community-supported agriculture, commitment to our schools, the student housing, a more vibrant downtown, a more vibrant community. And many of these things involved people beyond Paul Stewart. They involved many of you who are here in this room today. But without Paul's presence and support and commitment to an environment of health and growth, many of us would not be here today to do this type of work. So when I talk with people about the residency program, I explain the dynamic of having like two parents, right? We have Sky Lakes Medical Center and we have OHSU that both are like the parents for our organization. But anytime you have that, you run the risk that you could develop strife if you had misalignment of the missions and visions of those organizations. But in our case, it's been really synergistic. We have the educational mission of OHSU that's helped us center on what it means to be a health professional training center. And Paul has really welcomed that and helped transform Sky Lakes into a true teaching hospital. And the mission of Sky Lakes has kept us grounded in what it means to improve the health of our community. And that's been really critical to our ability to meet the needs of our patients. Many residencies across the country cannot say that about their hospital. But we are just so fortunate that Sky Lakes has this mission and the values around primary care and education and improving the health of the community. And this is due to your vision and your leadership. So I also talk with physicians across the community, and you hear people credit Paul with being accessible and like willing to let us email him and meet with him directly to talk about what's on their mind. But I have a hunch that 9 times out of 10, when we do this, we are not walking into his office or sending him an email because we think everything's running smoothly. And we want to tell him what a good job he is doing, right? And that's on us. Unfortunately, the heavy weight of good leadership is that people forget to say thank you. We forget to tell you when things are running smoothly, and instead we bring our problems to you. And we do so even more when you show us that you will listen, and see the big picture and be accountable and take judicious action. So I think this happened to Paul a lot. And it's all that more important then that tonight we use this as an opportunity to say thank you. And thank you and acknowledging all of the moments when we benefited from your leadership and we forgot to let you know. So I personally have benefited, I've benefited both personally and professionally, and you have been a role model for me with a very unique version of success. Most of the models of success that I have seen in medical education and academic medicine are people who move to a new job, a new community, a new opportunity in order to move up the ladder of success. And in Paul, I've been able to see a version where the longer you stay committed to your role and your community, the more you can accomplish, the more good you can do, and the more successful you are. I think that our world needs more of this version of success. So thank you, Paul. I am just so grateful to have worked with you. And on behalf of the residency and the community, we thank you for your service and your leadership.
Thank you, Dr. Hollander-Rodriguez. We'll next hear from Dr. Holly Montjoy, family medicine physician and past president of the medical staff.
Well, that shouldn't be hard to follow. Dear Paul, there's an old saying, in a world full of hate, be the light. And I guess more recently, in a world full of Kardashians, be the Betty White. But tonight, and along the same vein, I'll add, in a system full of healthcare executives, be a Paul Stewart. Be the person who leads by example. Be the person who takes time to hear multiple perspectives. Be firm and be kind. Be prepared and be open-minded. Be experienced and also be encouraging. You have been all of these wonderful things to me and to others around you. When I started as chief of staff with no experience whatsoever, your team was truly my anchor in troubled seas, and I will never be able to thank you and those that were with you for that experience. I remember sitting in your office, and one of the first lessons that you taught me when I said, how do you manage conflict, was simply listen first. And that's been so important to me. You were the kind of person that truly grows people around you, and I have grown just from watching you lead in the way that you've done. Sky Lakes is a community hospital in every sense of the term because of the community that you built within it and the community that you have supported around it. I hope to see you around, whether it be here or in Maui. And for you, I am also always here if you need anything. I forever thank you for everything that you've done for me and for this community.
Through the evening. Thank you, Dr. Montjoy. We will now be privileged to hear from Dr. Robert Jackman, family medicine physician and current president of the medical staff.
Bigger and better.
Unfortunately, I need these now. but I can reach the podium. All right. First of all, Paul, I'd like to congratulate you on your retirement, and I wish you the best in whatever endeavor that you follow and whatever the future brings. These last 2 years have been an incredible strain, and you have done a tremendous job, and I just want to compliment you for that. When I first arrived in Klamath back in 1999, the relationship with the medical staff, to me, and between the medical staff and the administration, seemed oddly strange and adversarial. I couldn't figure out why, but I think in the last 5 years, it's been very collegial, cordial, and respectful. Your leadership has helped guide and support this productive relationship. It's been an honor and a pleasure to work with you over these last few years as a member of the medical staff, and your knowledge and guidance has helped me navigate the murky waters of the medical staff rules, regulations, and politics. Your dedication to the citizens and community of Klamath Falls should be known and recognized by all. So, I'd like you to come up here if you don't mind. As a token of our appreciation, the medical staff would like to make you an honorary medical provider so that you can experience some of the policies you've instituted. And maybe it can entice you out of retirement. Now, just to facilitate this transition, we took the liberty and already designed your schedule. It starts 2 weeks from today. But since you have 2 weeks off, we want you to go to the Bandon Golf Course and have a good time. Mine is short.
Thank you, Dr. Becker. We'll next be privileged to hear from Kelly Minty Morris, one of our Klamath County Commissioners.
I guess being the first one without a doctor and a title is, sort of intimidating. Hi, everyone. One of the county commissioners, and I just want to share that truly, being a county commissioner, I always say it's the greatest job in the world. And I always say, I couldn't imagine doing anything else. They'll have to, one day when the voters don't want me anymore, I'll be so sad, but I'll do it, whatever, and I'll never do anything else. But then I add, except for work for Paul Stewart. That would be the only other thing that I can imagine as great as being your county commissioner. Paul and I have had the opportunity to do several projects over the years, but probably the big one that people are most familiar with is that we were both really just swept away by Stephanie Van Dyke and Catherine Pope and got involved in the Blue Zones project, and we've got to be the leadership team on that. And I got to thinking that that's where I've really got to see Paul in action with his, thoughtfulness and all the things we know about him, right? He's very thoughtful, always very smart, professional, all the things, but with big heart. But I got to thinking as I was contemplating what I wanted to say to Paul tonight that, really, in some ways, it doesn't necessarily make sense that the director of Sky Lakes would be the person involved with the Blue Zones project, because some could very easily argue that being the director of the hospital, the place where we care for our sick and vulnerable when they are sick and vulnerable, that is enough. That's plenty. If somebody does nothing else, that is doing a lot. So the fact that Paul Stewart is the kind of person that not only wants to be in charge, if you will, of caring for our sick and vulnerable when we're sick and vulnerable, but also says, I want to care for everyone. I want to make you healthy, and so you don't end up there. That's an incredible vision for someone to have. And I just don't think very many people would have that kind of vision and then bring with it the energy and the passion to be so successful in that project. So Paul could have very easily been the guy in the hospital on the hill, sort of separated from the community, and instead he is by far one of the most influential people in the Klamath community. So I will miss you, partner, but don't go anywhere. And then the final thing that I just want you all, I want some assistance with, is that I'm dying to get Paul to run for office someday. So put that bug, and I'm sorry to his wife, because I know you probably don't want that, but put the bug in his ear, because Paul would be amazing in public servant, because you embody being a statesman and a public servant. So thank you for what you do.
Thank you, Commissioner. We'll next be privileged to hear from Tayo Akins, Chief Executive Officer of Cascade Health Alliance.
So when I was given the opportunity to have us to speak tonight, and I asked how many minutes do I have, they said 5 minutes. I said I can have about an hour. And the reason, a couple of things. A little over 7 years ago, I had the opportunity to meet Paul Stewart in the boardroom at Sky Lakes. And here today we are gathered to celebrate his accomplishments and achievement as he retires as the president and CEO of Sky Lakes after 30 years in the same position as the CEO. 30 years, my friends, is a long time in the same position in any industry, especially in healthcare. He's an outlier. And I'll come back to that in a quick minute. This will make Paul one of the longest tenure CEO of any hospital in Oregon. This will make him one of the top 10 in the nation, serving in the same role. But I know everybody's going to talk about Paul and all the great things that he has done, but I'm going to be narrowly focused on one thing as my board member. I have 3 relationships with Paul. One, as my board member at Cascade Comprehensive Care. 2, as my board member at Cascade Health Alliance. And 3, as my partner at the hospital. 3 distinct relationships. So I've got the unique opportunity to see Paul at least once every month for the last 7 years. At least. So Paul is one of my board members, and I've had the privilege to work with him professionally as my board member. Few hospital executives talk about the transition of hospital from sick care to focus on wellness and prevention, like Paul does. Very few. So I will consider Paul as, in the light of looking at him as a board member, a very astute business, brilliant man. In 1999, Paul had the foresight to invest in CCC as we were looking to expand and needed capital. When you now fast forward, that brilliance of that investment and foresight, that investment has compounded 16% every year. That investment is a 16% compounded annual growth rate. What does that mean? that means that every 4.5 years, that investment that he made in 1999 doubles that money. That's the brilliance of the foresight that Paul had back then. Paul is not only just a brilliant businessman, he has high emotional intelligence and cultural intelligence as well. He does not seek attention in the boardroom, but you can see his moves beginning to happen when his colleagues begin to ask questions. He's very thoughtful in his questions, very patient in his listening to understand, and very strategic in his actions. As a board member, he has a higher intelligence of corporate governance and the role of the board working with the CEO and in governing, not in managing. There's a big difference. And I want to say thank you to that. So when I heard the reaction when Paul called me and said he was there was a press release, I was stunned. I was happy for him, but I was sad for the community. I was sad for myself, out of selfish reasons. And as folks were wondering how the search process was going, I was internally venting that I wish he would retire in 3 more years. And I was trying to calculate the last time I met him and Susan at Dr. Z's office, at Dr. Z's retirement. How old was he? But when I discussed it with someone, they said change is good, which is true. I'm a change agent, but this was difficult. And I don't know why. I had to process, I didn't see my life. I had to process my own set of emotions to understand, what does that mean? Why is this change so difficult? But I think I know why. Having had the unique opportunity to lead the organization that Paul sits on as my board member, having a CEO who believes in transformation from sick care to wellness and prevention is very rare in hospital. Having the opportunity to work with him just that last 3 years to get to CCO 3.0 was my own selfish desire. I wish I could still convince him. But we'll see. So I want to thank you for all the contributions for the community, Paul, the healthcare industry, especially in Klamath, and CCC. CCC will not have been able to fulfill its fullest potential if you did not have the foresight to invest in CCC in 1999, when it needed to expand services and capital was required. The deal you signed was one of the most masterstroke if anyone have ever seen. An institution never retire, but individuals will over time. You understand that? As you look back on your time with us, please know our achievement would never have been possible without you at the helm. You have tirelessly given your time, energy, and resources. And here are 3 words to describe you. You're dedicated to making the world a better place, especially in healthcare. You're loyal to their community. As prior speakers have said, you're a servant leader that is grounded in mission-based principles and every given day. I am personally grateful for your guidance, insight, and ideas over the years. On behalf of the board of CCC, CHA, and its staff, we want to present you a plaque of appreciation for your loyal and dedicated services to the board. Unfortunately, the plaque did not get here today, but we'll have an opportunity to give it to you at the next board meeting. So, in closing, as you look forward to your next journey, post-retirement. Apart from traveling, one other option is to write a book. Your story needs to be told. 30 years in an industry in a rural community, you're a trailblazer. You're a trailblazer. And as we think about a title, just think about it. A Guide to Rural Health Sustainability. My journey as a CEO for 30 years. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you, Mr. Akins. We will now be privileged to hear from Dr. Grant Niskanen, family medicine physician and vice president of medical affairs at Sky Lakes Medical Center.
Well, thank you. This is quite the act to follow. And unlike Dr. Jackman, I'm very used to my glasses. So it is my privilege to say a few words this evening on behalf of the senior management team and all Sky Lakes employees as we bid farewell to Paul Stewart, who today is retiring after a remarkable 35 years of service. It has been rightly said that it's important to work for a good boss as well as a good organization. Those of us at Sky Lakes have been fortunate on both counts. Paul's expertise as a manager and ability to motivate has enabled our organization to achieve goals that at times seems impossible. And under his guidance, Sky Lakes has grown and prospered, while community hospitals throughout the country have struggled and even failed. His success has been our success, and we've been lucky to have his leadership for so long. As most of you realize, we've been in a pandemic. Until the pandemic, every new employee realized there was something unique about Sky Lakes and its CEO on the very first day of work. Sitting in orientation, they met a leader who took time out of his busy schedule to meet with them and to convey a vision for the organization and their roles within it. As days grew into months and then years, they came to know a CEO who was present and approachable, easy to access if the need arose, and who, through actions rather than words, demonstrated a passion for the community and the patients we serve. He was that and more for all of us. But those of us who worked most closely with him over the years know a Paul that others may not. I'll be gentle. Blessed with many talents, perhaps his humility is his greatest trait. Most uncomfortable when showered with awards and accolades, a man with charisma that can fill a room lacks the ego, which all too often accompanies such gifts. He's undoubtedly miserable right now. A consummate optimist when it comes to humanity, Paul's first impulse is always to give people the benefit of the doubt as he aspires to find the good in others. Regardless of the level of acrimony that may have risen from time to time, as is the nature of our business, Paul has endeavored to treat all as honest and deserving of his trust, and has built personal relationships with even those most frequently on the other side of issues with the hospital. He once even presented a peace pipe to a past medical president as sign of the new beginning. Now, I will tell you, on the other end of this peace pipe was actually a tomahawk. Many may not realize this, but Paul has a tremendous sense of humor as well. From quick-witted joking with his team in meetings to elaborate pranks, once convincing legal counsel that Sky Lakes had been sold on April Fools. Another time hiding plastic spiders in his arachnophobic executive assistant's office for Halloween. There are times he's not the serious and dignified man that we see here tonight. Paul's impact on Sky Lakes and this community is nearly incalculable. Working alongside him has been a profoundly enjoyable and educational experience, and we know his absence will be felt by all of us in the weeks and months and years to come. Paul has always been much more than a boss, and those of us that know want the best to congratulate him on his retirement and wish him continued happiness and success and a lower handicap in his new chapter of life.
Trying to keep his golf game on par with mine. So. We'll get him there, Grant. We'll get him there. Thank you, Dr. Scanlon. We'll next hear from Ben Stewart, my brother and eldest son of Paul and Suzanne, managing attorney at Safe Corporation.
As you can tell, oldest is about the only adjective for me as a brother. Not the tallest brother, not the best looking brother. The oldest, we got that one down. First, want to say thank you on behalf of our family to everybody, to this community who's made this a wonderful place for our family to grow, and we've grown a little bit since Mom and Dad first came knocking on Klamath Falls' door. So it's been a great place for us. So thank you, and thank you for sharing your kind words tonight about my father. Sam's the crybaby. It's not me. I don't know. But thank you. He's all those things and more. You know him as Paul and Mr. Stewart, and to us, he's Dad, Pops, Grandpa, P. Stew. And on the golf course, when we're trying to rib him, we call him Old Man. Doesn't help me yet. To each of us in the family, he's a great man, someone we look up to for a variety of reasons. He's all those things: dedicated, loyal, servant leader in the home. Want to share, indulge a little bit, share a couple of stories that to me, taught me the type of man that he is. Unfortunately, they both involve me crashing his cars. Sorry to dredge up some bad memories. So as a teenager, growing up in Klamath Falls, there were certainly at times a little more to do than drive around and listen to loud music. On this particular occasion, we were following a car full of our friends, trying to convince them to pull over and join us. It was, of course, a car full of girls. In a series of unfortunate events, I thought the driver had waved me to pass them. So I moved to pass them, and that's not what she meant, and did not see me coming and turned into me. Everybody was fine. The cars were less than fine. And it was a very nervous moment as a teenager. And perhaps a turn of fortunate events, he happened to be out of town. Didn't have to face the music quite yet. The relevant part of the story is what happened when he did get back to town. I could take you to the exact spot where I was standing when he pulled up in his rental car and got out of the car. I'm not sure how I looked. I'm sure a puppy with my tail between my legs. And before I could even attempt to utter any sort of apology, he embraced me and said, "I love you, son. Everything will be fine." The second time. So this time I was preparing to leave for Portugal. I was going to go there for 2 years to serve a mission for my church. I'd gone off to a year of college. I was back working at the Running Y, and of course, while at college, met a special friend. And decided it'd be great before I left for a couple of years to go back and visit her and say hi to her. And some other friends, family in Utah. So my shift at the Running Y ended. I had to close down the shop, so it was 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. Jump in the Suburban, and I had my caffeinated beverages. I had my mixtape ready to go. I hit the road and drive by myself all through the night and make it there. I was a teenager. We're invincible. About 3 hours into the drive, which puts me somewhere right around the middle of nowhere, started getting a little sleepy. When I woke up, the car was about to go off the side of the road. And of course, I was a teenager, so I don't know what to do. So what do? As hard as you can, you yank the wheel back the other way, which is actually not what you're supposed to do. And I found out real fast. I was still half asleep, so I couldn't tell you actually what happened after that, but somehow ended up in a ditch in the car on the side of the road in the middle of nowhere. Quick check for bumps and bruises, blood, totally fine. Obviously the car didn't check out so well. And these days, cell phones were made of two pieces, the battery and the cell phone. And after a lot of luck and a little bit of a miracle, I found both of those pieces with a road flare for light. Called my parents, woke them up, told them the good news. They were gonna get a new car. And of course, they got up and were on their way, and there I sat for a few hours in the dark by myself, waiting for them to show up. The sun's about to rise, parents pull up, again bracing for the confrontation. My dad jumps out and he's got his camera. He had a big smile on his face. He's like, "We have got to get some pictures of you with your car." So now we have, for all memory, some pictures of me looking not terribly happy to be standing in front of a destroyed car with the sun rising. Beautiful, beautiful pictures. But that's how he handled the situation. And many stories from my life, and everybody could come up from my family and share just the same stories about the type of man that he is and how it was growing up with him as a father. But these two stories to me taught me everything I needed to know about my dad. He was more worried about me than the messes that I had created. I wasn't worried about the hours and hours of insurance and dollars and headaches that I had just caused. None of them mattered. He cared about me, and that's my dad. He cares about the people in his life. He cares about the things he does. He's dedicated in everything he does, personally and professionally. He's caring, he's selfless. He's a great example, both professionally and as a man. Taught me how to be a husband, a father, and a provider. And our family motto is take the high road, and no one lives it better than him. And I bet if you asked him where he would attribute all of his success to, you talk about some people that he knew, many of you in this room probably, some experiences he had. Most important would be his wife. My mom. Always by his side. A selfless life of love for her family and for her best friend, my dad. Mom, we love you and recognize you for everything you've done. So there it is, old man. You did it. Congrats. Can't tell you how proud we are as a family, and how honored we are to call you Dad and Grandpa. We love you.
glad I don't have to share any of my stories. Those are probably the only two that he has from his entire life. I've got a handful more, I think, so glad I don't have to share any of those. We'll next hear from John Bell, current Sky Lakes Medical Center Board Chair.
And you two thought I had a hard act to follow? Governor Stewart. No, he's too smart for that. You're going to be having a lot of family time coming up here. So if you need a break from that and you need someone to go help spend that abandoned certificate you just got, I'm your guy. My name is John Bell, and I've had the privilege of being on the Sky Lakes board and working with Paul. I don't know exactly how many years that's been. I don't look at it that way. I've looked at it as just this amazing time to get to know Paul and to be involved with him. It's been my privilege to work beside him all these years, and I've learned so much from him. From his ability to look ahead, to be a visionary, to envision a better healthcare system, to advocate for a healthier community. And in both the good and the challenging times, Paul has never wavered as a strong, resilient, and thoughtful leader. You all know this. He's a great communicator, and his style with our board was always to provide accurate information, but then to let us go through the pros and cons of the discussion and come to our own conclusions. But I cannot tell you how many times we ended up going back to Paul because we wanted his opinion, because we respected him so much. With Paul's retirement came the daunting task of finding his replacement. And that's the board's main job, is to find the replacement for the CEO. And as we have been interviewing candidates, one theme kept coming up in our discussions with these individuals. And they would ask us, "You don't really expect me to fill Paul's shoes, do you?" And our answer was no. No, because we knew it was impossible. Impossible to find somebody with that vision, that dedication to his community, that courage to take on difficult issues, that humble yet strong leadership style that has united both the hospital community and Klamath community. We will not be able to replace Paul, but tonight we do get to celebrate him and to thank him. So how do you say thank you besides giving them a abandoned gift certificate? For someone who has done so much for all the hospital and all of us. Well, we know it cannot be done, but we did want to try. So with that being said, I have an announcement to make. But first, I'd like to have the current Sky Lake Board of Directors all please stand up. While you're standing, please remain standing. Lisa, I would like you also to stand. And Paul, if you don't mind, would you come up on stage here with me? So this is an announcement from the Sky Lakes Board of Directors. And I wanted to include Lisa because she's been also a big part of this decision. Tonight, we announce that the CHC building, our new beautiful building on the Sky Lakes campus, is going to be renamed the Paul Stewart Collaborative Health Center. thank you. I want to say thank you for your friendship. I want to say thank you for all you've done for all of us. This is the naming of the building is hopefully something that you'll enjoy and appreciate. And I know your family will be proud of the fact that this is, that we chose to do this. And from the Sky Lakes Board of Directors, you will be so greatly missed. And it won't be the same. And I wish I had done it retired before you. So thank you so much.
Thank you, John. And thank you to all who have shared messages and stories with us this evening. Thank you again to everybody for coming out to celebrate with our family. My father. Dang it, Ben. Guy's not worse. We're okay. We got this. We'd like to recognize and thank Marcy Johnston and her business for the Love of Food for preparing the food and everything from earlier. My mother and sisters and sister-in-law for the decor as well. Special thanks to Lisa Avila, Lizzie Guptill, Tom Hotman, and Lauren Jesperson for their work in planning this celebration and the previous one at the hospital on Wednesday this week. Thank you very much. Theater as well for hosting us. We greatly appreciate you opening up your doors for us. To conclude our evening, we will be honored to hear from our guest of honor, Paul Stewart. As is evident here tonight, his impact on so many lives and our community has been felt throughout his 35-year career. His presence will be missed at the medical center, but as my mother continually reminds him, your life is not defined by your career. This next chapter of your life will surely bring you challenges and opportunities, and we know that you will continue to have an impact on our lives and our community. Maybe take a vacation or two first. At the conclusion of Paul's remarks, we invite you to leave through the main lobby where you came in. There are a couple photo boards out there if you so wish to look and revisit some memories throughout his career. And please drive safe. Okay.
Starting to feel like there's a very fine line between a retirement party and a wake. I am so humbled and honored and privileged to be among you tonight. I told Suzanne and Lisa I did not want a party. And as you can see, I am no longer the boss of anything.
You're used to it.
But since the ladies made me come here tonight, now you're going to have to suffer through listening to me for a few minutes. Because I've been here 35 years and I've got a few memories and a few people to thank. Slideshow should last more than about 55 minutes. No. I remember when I was a graduate student, graduating from graduate school, we had an individual from a National Education Association come and speak to the graduating students, and he was talking about, here are some of the career options that you might consider going into healthcare administration. Going to work for a large clinic, working at a hospital, an academic medical center, maybe even working for a health department. But most of us and most of my peers really wanted to go work in a large tertiary care academic medical center because we kind of thought that was the pinnacle of healthcare in the United States at the time. And I remember him saying, why would you want to go work at a large hospital where you're probably going to be the vice president over parking when you could go to work at a smaller hospital in a smaller community and have a much broader influence and more exciting challenges every day? And he was right. And I don't regret listening to and remembering his advice and not having gone to work, with all due respect for the OHSUs of the world. When I came here with my wife back in 1986, our plan was to be here for about 4 years. That was the career plan. I reported to the chief operating officer at the time. He didn't look to me like he was going anywhere, and CEO didn't look like he was either. So we were assuming to advance my career that I'd have to move on. And then in 1990, thereabouts, the COO precipitously resigned. And I was given some additional responsibilities and challenges, and I was excited by that, and that enticed me to stay for a couple of more years. In 1992, the then chairman of the board, Dick Ledgerwood, asked me to come down to his office on Main Street. Now you recall, I'm just a lowly assistant administrator at this time. I don't work directly with the board, so to be called into the board chairman's office was quite intimidating. And I didn't know what to expect, and it got even worse when I walked into his office, and there sitting with him was Dick Wendt, who was also a member of the board at the time. We chatted for a few minutes, and they got around to asking me how long I planned to stay at what was then Merle West Medical Center. I'd already been here 50% longer than I'd hoped to planned on. And so I thought a good answer was, well, no, I'll probably be here another 2 or 3, maybe 4 years. That seemed reasonable enough to keep my job. And Dick Wendt looked at me and he said, I don't understand why you wouldn't want to spend the rest of your career here. This is a great community. You've got a lovely family. This is a great place to raise a family. There are plenty of good things to do, both at the hospital and in this community. And then they knocked me off the chair and offered me the CEO position, which was really out of the blue. And as the youngest CEO in Oregon at that time, I was obviously excited, but I was terrified too about being handed that opportunity. But I went to work. And I can honestly tell you, I've never regretted that decision. Well, maybe once or twice. Dick Wendt, as he's done for many people, took me under his wing and was a great influence on me, both professionally and personally. He would often call me down to his office, usually late in the day, to talk about some things that we were doing. He always offered sound counsel, asked great questions, helped me learn how to make better decisions. I always remember as I went to his office, especially late in the day, and we were talking, he would always pause around 5:15 and say, I need to call my wife, Nancy. And he would pick up the phone and call her and just indicate he needed a little more time. He was going to be a little bit later coming home. And that was it, hung up. I learned a lot from that example. There was a man running a multi-million-dollar corporation, and he never forgot who was most important to him. And while I haven't been quite as good at that as he probably was, I've done my best to set appropriate priorities in my life, and I will always treasure his example. One of our earlier conversations with him and with the board was about our mission statement. And there was a phrase that the board wanted to add to our mission statement above just providing the most needed healthcare services and reduce the burden of accidents and illness. They wanted to add this sentence at the end that said, we'll be so good at this that we will become a preeminent medical center in the Western United States. And I thought, do you guys know where you're at? This little rural community hospital you think has any hope of being a preeminent medical center? And I admit it just sounded absurd to me at the time, but then I was pretty young and naive too. And I had a great board. They were very visionary. While that was audacious, they saw the potential and they had a desire to set a vision for us. Fast forward to today. Sky Lakes Medical Center has been recognized among the first hospitals in the Pacific Northwest to be accredited by DNV, which is an international accreditation society. We have also become ISO certified. Health Grades has rated us among the top hospitals in the country for pulmonary care. Our joint program is nationally certified. Becker's Healthcare Review named us one of the top 100 rural hospitals in the nation. The Chartist Group for 4 years has named us one of the top 100 community hospitals in the nation. And in February of this year, we will receive from the American Hospital Association the Rural Hospital Leadership Team Award, which is the highest honor that the AHA can bestow upon a rural facility. I've always bragged to my peers that I have exceptional board members to work with. And on behalf of this community, they have been and are my boss. And I want you to know how incredibly blessed I have been to work with a group of people who are dedicated and committed to this community. They do not get paid for what they do, and yet they take their responsibilities incredibly seriously. They clearly had a vision of what we could do at this community hospital, and then they've pushed me and my team to strive for something more, to strive for excellence in everything that we do. From the old guard of Dick Ledgerwood and Don Boyd, Dick Wendt, Neil Eberline, to the current guard of John Bell, Rod Wendt, Gene Phillips, Heidi Biggs, and others. It's an honor to work with you. They are strong and passionate. Their heart is all about doing what's best for this community. A CEO's job can be a little lonely. I've got a great team that I work with, but often there are things that you can only discuss with your boss. And the relationship between the CEO and the chairman of the board is a special one. It's unique. And I cannot thank John Bell enough for his commitment to this job. He has always been there for me. I bug him a lot. I send him emails and calls, and he never hesitates to counsel, to help guide decisions, always there for me to bounce things off of and provide wise advice. And over the years, more than just the chairman of the board, he's become my friend, and I'm honored to work with you. He and several other board members have put in an incredible amount of time and commitment during the process of choosing my successor. And again, they are doing this with no pay whatsoever. It's almost a full-time job over the past several months. It's a commitment to a job that, in the end, helps this community and serves them. And I'm grateful to the board, to you, John, to the search committee for all you're doing to ensure that this organization continues on its journey of excellence. I've had many great vice presidents that I've worked with over the years. Some have been good, some have been okay. Some have been great. And I can honestly say that as a group, the team of vice presidents that I work with right now is the strongest that I have ever had in my career. They are honest, they are trustworthy, they are professional, they support each other, and they are truly dedicated to making this community a better place for you and I to live and work, and making this organization stronger. Don, Rich, Grant, and Ron, I want you to know what an honor it is and has been to work with you on our journey of excellence. And I know that you will continue the journey with the foundation that we've laid. You've supported me personally and it has been deeply appreciated, long treasured, and you will be missed. So thank you. Leadership can be a very difficult art. Trying to make decisions, coach people, allocate resources, administer judgment, sometimes having to discipline behavior. It's hard. It's hard to find people in healthcare who are both good at their profession, but also good at leading other people. I have about 30 department directors that work with us. Over the years, from a performance standpoint, they have typically fit into a pretty nice bell-shaped curve. At one end are some exceptional performers, strong, capable, always there doing what's right. At the other end are some less than stellar performers. And it's hard to select and get a team that is just uniformly great, strong leaders. But in the middle are a lot of good people doing a good job and helping the organization get by. I want this community to know, and those of you who are from this community know, that this group of department directors that you have at your local hospital right now is truly the best that you've ever had in this community over the 35 years that I've been here. And to watch them work, especially over the past 2 years of a pandemic and a cyber attack on top of it that crippled our information systems, our billing systems, our data collection, to watch this group step up, adapt, be flexible, and respond to the needs in this community has been awe-inspiring. And they are truly heroes in this community for what they have done. And I have been honored to come along for part of the ride, to work alongside them and to work with them to try to do what we can to step up in the difficult times that we've had over the past couple of years. They are incredibly dedicated. They do so without one complaint. They work long hours. They step in and fill holes wherever they can. And it's just a pleasure to call them my co-workers. And I'm deeply grateful to each of you who may be here tonight. Speaking of heroes, I've always said it's the frontline employees of this organization who do the true work day in and day out. And I really just get to come along for the ride. I'm replaceable. You'll find that out. But the people that are on the front lines, taking care of people, mopping floors, making sure the bills go out, registering people, they are the ones that make things happen at this organization. My very first job in a hospital was as a housekeeper, mopping floors in the emergency room and changing beds, linens on beds. I loved the people that I worked with. And it instilled in me what I hope is a deep sense of appreciation for the contribution that everybody makes in this organization. Now, any businessman can say that, but this is your hospital. This is the group of people who step in to save lives and to help navigate the challenges of a very, I would say, disturbed healthcare system. It's very difficult and intimidating when people are vulnerable and at their worst. And the people on the front lines of this hospital make me proud day in and day out. When I walk the halls and see the hard work that they're doing, I am inspired. Bringing together a group of 1,500 people and getting them to work well together, to stay on task, to focus on what's most important, to adapt, to learn new skills. It's not easy, but to most of my people, and they are my people, it's more than a job to them, and they show it every day. And you should be proud of the people that work at your local hospital. We've come a long way. We have a long ways to go, but I will miss their compassion and their energy and their smiles. They are true heroes. And I'm going to divert on that for a minute and talk about vaccine mandates. I am troubled to have seen over the past couple of years the deep appreciation that people in all communities across this country had for our frontline healthcare people, calling them indeed heroes, because that's what they are. To moving to a point where those very same heroes are in danger of losing their job because they won't do something that someone else wants them to do. I struggle with that, I want you to know I'm a strong advocate of vaccines, and I believe everyone should get a vaccine, and I believe it's the best way to mitigate the harm of this current pandemic. I do not support our governor or our president mandating that healthcare employees get a vaccine in order to keep their job. And it's been a difficult row for us to haul as an organization. I am grateful that my employees have been patient as we've navigated that very difficult decision-making process. And I feel that we have maintained a very safe operating environment while creating an environment where many people who had reasonable objections to the vaccine are able to keep their jobs and continue to serve people in this community. That's a difficult position for a community hospital to adopt, and it's not always popular. It's been a hard decision. But for me, what I value and what I need is people that do the work to be available to do the work. And they are, and I'm proud of it. I want to mention our physician providers in this community. Relationships between physicians and hospital administration are not always typically smooth in most environments. There are legitimate reasons for why there are differences of opinion and conflicts. But I can honestly say with the group of physicians that we have on the staff right now, I couldn't be more proud of them as clinicians. The quality of care that they provide, their compassion and dedication to excellence is unmatched. They work hard for often very little thanks and a lot of hassle from insurers and regulators and the government. And they literally save lives on a regular basis. What an honor and a privilege it is to work alongside them. They are the captain of the ship for patient care in our community. And while they aren't always able to heal everything that walks in the door that we need to take care of, they do everything they can to comfort and to provide peace to individuals. I credit two of them literally for saving my life. One of them, Dr. Robert Pack, is an emergency physician who has since relocated from our community. But the other one is Dr. Grant Niskanen. A couple of years ago, I had a really bad infection, turned into sepsis. Had it not been for those two, I wouldn't be standing here today. So, Grant, thank you. I've had some incredible administrative assistance and support. Kathy King, Lizzie, Diana Taylor, and now Lisa. When I took over as CEO, I inherited my assistant at the time, Diana Taylor, and I worked with her for over 20 years. And we had a great relationship. She was incredible, and when she retired and moved to Texas, I felt pretty convinced that I didn't think I'd ever be able to replace her, and I was wrong. When her job came open, we had a handful of qualified applicants. Wasn't sure we had the right person for the job, but we had hired somebody into medical staff services at the time whom I had watched and knew that she was skilled and professional and was an up-and-coming leader in our organization. And she hadn't applied for the job. And so I reached out to her, and it took some convincing. She was reluctant to leave her coworkers and nervous about working for some yahoos in administration. But I was successful at convincing her to join me, and it ended up being one of the best decisions I've ever made. Lisa's both my right hand and my left hand. She's competent and caring, but she's very professional. She's sensitive and yet firm. She has excellent judgment, and she's kept me out of a lot of hot water. And provides great counsel, advice, and I consider her to be a magician because she has made me look a whole lot better than I really am. As much as anything, she's become a dear friend, and I'm going to miss working with her. Lisa, would you come up here, please? lastly, as you know, I'm blessed to have my family here tonight, my 5 children, 2 of whom are blubberers. You saw my great 2 boys. You need to know I've got 3 daughters that are even better. And I'm honored to call them my children. They brought into our home 5 lovely spouses. And more importantly than any of them is now 17 grandchildren. And they are awesome. When I was in Kansas City, I worked for a CEO whom I'm sad to say I did not have much respect for. He was a decent enough person, but he was kind of cold and uncaring. A little stiff and rigid, and he wasn't a good communicator. And needless to say, it wasn't a great relationship. When I left his employ, I remember 2 things he said to me. One, he told me he did not think I had what it takes to be the CEO of a hospital. And he suggested that I ought to be content with just being a marketing director or something like that. 2, he said he knew I was pretty committed to my family. And he said, Paul, you need to understand, you can't be successful at work and be successful with your family. One has to take precedence over the other, and you'll have to make a sacrifice. I didn't believe that, never have, never will. Life is about trying to find an appropriate balance. I haven't always been successful at that, but my family has kept me pretty well grounded. I have an incredible wife. She carried an amazing load of raising 5 children, often alone because of my obligations and commitments. She filled in for my shortcomings, and she's raised 5 incredible children. I was sad when they left home and got married, because I liked being around them, and I knew I wouldn't be able to be around them quite as much. I'm happy with the in-laws that they brought into the world, but they redeemed themselves by giving us these grandchildren. There's nothing that I've done personally or professionally over the nearly 45 years of my career that has not been positively influenced by one individual, someone who has become, is, and always will be my very best friend. Her love, support, counsel, and advice, wisdom and judgment have molded and shaped me into who I am. When you thank me for what I've done, what small contribution I've made to this institution or to this community, you really should be thanking her, because she has literally made me who I am today. She's been on my side through some pretty difficult things. I've had cancer twice. I've had a bout of sepsis. I had a dark period when we had some people who were trying to get me fired. A difficult period when our hospital's finances were in jeopardy. And then, of course, the past 2 years of this pandemic and a cyber attack. And through all those ups and downs, through thick and thin, through my stress and anxiety, she's been there. She's been there holding me up, encouraging me, keeping me grounded, helping me navigate through the darkness, and help me find the bright side, whatever it takes. And you all know that through sharing her musical talents, she has influenced thousands of children and adults in this community. She's not only raised 5 amazing children, but she now lives for these grandchildren, and will have a far broader impact through the ripple of her influence through time than I will ever have or hope to have. So, this is my tribute to her.
So many cables. We're getting there. A lot of cables.
Come on, Sam, you're the go.
I know. My boss is here. That's bad. It's coming. We got to switch adapters. All right, here we go.
The hair.
I'm sure all of you know that was her playing the piano in the background, the music. I get the blessing of listening to that all the time in my house, and it never gets old. This is one of the first times, and it might be the last time that I get to have the last word. I want to thank all of you for being here tonight, for your kind words, and especially to my family, some of you have traveled far to be here. I am truly honored to have worked at this institution for the past 30 years, and I'm going to miss it. These last few times that I've gone up to the hospital, rounding and chatting with my employees, it's tugging at my heartstrings because I'm so proud of them. Most people, when they think of a hospital, they think of a building. And you hear and read about a lot of construction projects and things that we've done over the years, but at the end of the day, a hospital is a group of people who come together and try to do their best to take care of their friends and neighbors. And I'm honored to have been a part of this institution. And my dad taught me when I was young and go out camping and fishing with him to always try to leave a campground a little bit better than you found it. My hope is that I've left Sky Lakes Medical Center just a little bit better than I found it. And I know that we've got a strong foundation upon which we'll continue to grow. Thank you all for joining with us to celebrate tonight, and I will miss all of you.